Whether if it's a launch video or a demo video, the number one thing that you need to solve first is clarity.
In this episode of The Narrative, I spoke with Alan Pun. If you've seen a viral startup launch video on your timeline recently, chances are Alan and his team produced it.
When everybody is saying the same thing, how do you stand out? How do you make your own product stand out? And this is where I see B2B is becoming more like B2C marketing, in that companies are starting to inject more personality into what they're doing.
In our conversation, we spoke about emerging video trends, common failure modes, and a tactical framework for founders to think about video storytelling in 2026. Okay, here's Alan. Alan, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Glad to be on here.
You've been in the game for some time now, honing your craft. So yeah, I'm curious how you got into it all, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so the funny thing is my background is not in video, but it was in architecture. Not the IT architecture, but building architecture, like designing skyscrapers and stuff. So I was studying and also working in that field for around 10 years before I got a little bit disillusioned with the industry, got frustrated with the role that I was in, and I decided to quit that job and make a career change. Initially, I didn't really have much of a plan, but I was always interested in filmmaking, even back at university. So I started going to film sets, starting out becoming a production assistant. You're just helping out, moving equipment, moving lights. And through that, I was starting to learn how does a camera work? How does lighting work? How does editing work? And I started making my own little short films, like my own little documentaries. You won't be able to find them online anywhere. But those were the early days of kind of figuring out this new industry. But I was also a bit older at the time. I was already 30 when I decided to pursue this new path. And I was like, I'm a little bit too old to try to climb from the bottom to the top, in the film industry, which is kind of how it works. You start as a PA, getting coffee for everyone, and then you slowly work your way up the chain. So I started thinking okay, how do I make this an actual profession? And through iterations, and that's how I landed on working with tech clients, creating their launch videos.
Wow. But how did you get into the scene, right? Because I'm guessing you're based in Hong Kong, and obviously Hong Kong has a tech scene of its own, but the clients you work with are mostly in the Bay Area. How is that journey? How did you kind of break in?
Initially, before I focused on tech, I was doing all sort of industry work, right? So, one day I would be filming a corporate banking interview. The next day I would be filming a promo video for some crypto bros, or doing some sort of fashion thing. So it was very scattered. And then, we all read about hey, niching, you should be niching, right? You should be specializing in one thing. And for whatever reason, I've always been interested in tech. Even back in university or something, I would stumble across Paul Graham, the founder of YC, his essays online, and I'd be interested in that. And I would also be reading just kind of tech theory, Ray Kurzweil Singularity. Who's the guy who founded Wired magazine?
Kevin Kelly.
Exactly. I would read Kevin Kelly books and articles. So I've always been interested in that side, the tech side of things. And then when it was time for me to niche down and pick a lane, I found that really natural to do. And I also just got along well with the guys in the industry. I think I'm just a secret nerd at heart. So I think there was just a good match there. So I first started to just creating videos for that industry, and eventually I just got approached online by my first YC client, and then that's how I got myself. So I did a good job for them, and then they just started referring me to other people in YC, and that's how I started to work with a lot of guys in the Bay Area. And actually, Hong Kong, unfortunately, does not have a very good tech community and tech scene. That's more Singapore, more like the Asia's startup hub, whereas Hong Kong is virtually dead. So anyway, that's my origin story.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And like, do you feel like how long ago was this? Like, was this like 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago?
Around 5-6 years ago when I first
Got
quit my
it.
job.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I mean, I feel like things have changed so much since then, right? Like, I do think today, like the launch video space is also pretty crowded. I think the concept of like investing in a good launch video is quite normalized now, like today. I'm guessing back when you started, like it was not like a thing that everyone did, like so I'm curious, like from your like vantage point, like how you've seen that like space evolve.
Yeah, so it's quite funny. Even up to last year, I had one potential client on the call. I think she was a CMO, and just like, hey, I really just need to get proof to my CEO that video works. Like, what are the statistics? And I was thinking, wow, that's a really strange question to be asking at 2025.
Yeah.
Surely the question that these days should be, how can we make video work for us? Not is video going to work? I think that is a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like there's like such a gap between what's happening in YC, and obviously YC founders tend to be a little more forward thinking because, well, they have to be, versus like what you see in the enterprise. There's still like this question of, okay, like will video work for us, and like how much time is needed? What are the resources involved? I think there's like a lot of these questions that I feel like CMOs find themselves like justifying to the exec team, which is crazy to me. Yeah, like I'm just curious, man, like since you've been doing this for a while, I feel like you've seen like different trends, right, in the video space, like aesthetic trends as well, and I feel like you're very much in touch with that. Yeah, I'm just curious, like if you're seeing within the video space, like what is it that you're seeing that works, or like some emerging trends that you're seeing that are kind of interesting.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question, and it's something that I've been thinking about as well. So the types of companies I work with are primarily in the B2B AI space, B2B software space, right? And one of the trends that I see is that B2B is becoming more like B2C in how they're marketing their products. So what I mean is, if you look at B2B videos maybe 10 years ago, they are all pretty standardized. It's kind of like, hey, meet Bob. Bob has an issue, and then here's our solution, and Bob is now super happy. So it used to be like that, and it worked, right? Because with B2B, you can generally afford to be a bit more boring and quote unquote logical, as long as you're solving a business problem. That's all good. But these days, when you're selling a software, they all have to promise the same things. They all have to save people time and money, or reduce or help them be more efficient at doing something, right? So that's the bare minimum of what the software has to do. Is expected, right? That's what it needs to do to get a foot in the door. So, when everybody is saying the same thing, how do you stand out? How do you make your own product stand out? And this is where I see B2B is becoming more like B2C marketing, in that companies are starting to inject more personality into what they're doing. So the poster child for this is obviously Cluely, where they inject a lot of the founder's story of how he got kicked out of his university and then started a company. And then if you look at the social media, they've turned their social media into kind of like a sitcom of the office life. So that's kind of the one extreme of it. But you also see a lot of companies these days, especially YC companies, caring a lot more about how the branding comes off personality wise. A big topic these days is like, oh, you have to have taste. You have to have taste. And you see a lot of these tech companies actually drawing inspiration from kind of the B2C space. And a big thing right now that you may have noticed is the theme of retro futurism.
Yeah, totally.
this idea of injecting nostalgia into your brand and into your marketing. If you see the marketing of Perplexity or Claude, they do a great job of selling that kind of vintage nostalgic aesthetic. And it's probably because as the world gets more digital, we as human beings want to have more and more analog things and that analog feeling around what we have and what we see.
Or at least the perception of using analog. Yeah,
Exactly.
totally. Yeah, that is so true. I mean, that is a big trend. I think the other thing that I'm seeing, and I'm curious to get your take on this, is like a lot of companies are hiring like a full-time video person who's like on site, like very enterprisey companies as well. So it's not just the hot new startup; it's also like bigger companies who just want like a video person on site vlogging stuff almost. And that is so interesting to me. Like I'm curious like what you think about that take, like, and the follow-up question to that is like, and we can kind of get into that, is like this idea of like a minimum viable video strategy for a company, right? Like everyone has different appetites for this and different budgets for this. So yeah, I'm curious if you have any thoughts there. And like across clients, I'm sure you've seen different like levels of enthusiasm.
Yeah, the in-house thing started even back in kind of 2020 kind of COVID era, where there was this sudden demand for video worldwide because everyone was in lockdown. So I think the trend of even like big companies like Google, Meta, they started hiring in-house, and then they would only hire out of house, like external contractors, when there was something specialized they need to do. Let's say a big campaign or like 3D animation. Whereas the day-to-day internal stuff, for maybe the internal facing stuff or things which are less customer facing, it would be all in-house, or the day-to-day social media stuff, it would all be in-house. So that's not a new trend, but I do see more and more companies will go down that path. And what was the other question?
The other question was this idea around like a minimum viable content strategy. So for example, like you said, there's like the day-to-day requirements of video. So this can be really like simple, not like very highly produced video that needs to go out anyway on socials and stuff, like clips from podcasts, like stuff like this. And then there's like these one-off event-based video projects. So a launch video, or like if the company has raised a new round, there's like another video asset that goes out with that, like those kinds of things, right? And what I'm curious about is like, if like you had to advise a founder, let's say a Series A company, on, hey, like, okay, like, what does my minimum viable video strategy need to be? Like, is there like a blueprint that you have in mind that, hey, like, this is what's worked? Again, based on, because you've worked with YC, you've worked with like even bigger companies like Meta. So you've seen everything across the board, right? From like Meta, where they can hire like, I don't know, like 15 people, to YC, where they're a little lean. Yeah, I'm just curious, like, if you have advice for founders in terms of how to structure that setup, you know?
Yeah, so I think it differs from company to company depending on what stage they're at and also what budget they have. But traditionally, a CMO would be allocated 10% of the company's revenue, yearly revenue, towards marketing. So that's their budget for the year, pretty much. And then they would split that into quarterly or even monthly budgets based on that. So traditionally, the CMO would have a set budget, and then that person would set out a plan that makes sense for that company, and then they would allocate that budget to either hiring in-house or external contractors. In terms of just minimal viable video strategy, yeah, that's a tough one because I would really have to look at what that company is doing in order to understand what they need. But I guess like at the minimum, you would need a launch video. Let's say you're launching your product, you would want a launch video to raise that top of the funnel awareness of what this product is and paint the big picture of what it can do. And then also perhaps a demo video as well. So once the prospect is interested, they go on your landing page. You could also use the same launch video on your website. But what I've also seen other people do is also to just have a demo video. That it can be as simple as a loom of you walking through your software, for example.
Yeah, this is actually like a perfect segue to my next question, which is around like common mistakes founders make in their video strategy. And like I feel like this comes up quite a bit because I was talking to some founders before this conversation about like what should I ask Alan, and like I think this was one of the things that came up often in our conversations, which was like the launch video and the demo video are two very distinct things. Like because the launch video is very vibes based, right? It's more like a philosophical, and then the demo video is like the nuts and bolts of like how the product works. And people just like paste either their demo video is their launch video or their launch video is their demo video, and that like always fails.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but whether if it's a launch video or a demo video, the number one thing that you need to solve first is clarity. So when people watch the video, do they actually understand what the product is? So that just comes down to communication skills. So that's number one. But the framework that I like to work from, I say clarity is just the baseline, is the starting point. That's the logic, right? So once people get what your product is, how do you convince them to take the next step? So within that, there's two things. There's producing excitement, and that's simply showing what the transformation from A to B looks like, because people don't really care about the product, right? They care about what the product is going to help them transform from A to B. So kind of think of it like, the analogy I always use is think of like the 6-pack shortcut ad, right? You have A is the dad bod, and then B is the 6-pack, and all you need to do is like buy this one equipment or buy this one diet pill, and you can change from A to B. And that's actually the best ad ever created. It's so good that Meta actually bans people from using this format of an advertising, because it can lead to a lot of fraudulent claims, and it just works. So you have to think about, what's the version of that I can show on my video, ideally in a visual way, to go from A to B. So that's excitement, painting a better future. But the other side that people don't often think about is also the idea of risk reduction. So very often when you're presenting a new product to someone, like a new software, sure, it sounds great, but are there risks involved, such as, hey, is this gonna take a long time for me to learn? Is my team gonna be bothered to learn all of this? Is this going to disrupt my regular workflow? Is this gonna work? So and this differs from product to product, company to company. So the founder needs to, through talking to the ICP, through the regular day-to-day sales conversation, find out what those objections are and integrate that into the marketing or even the products, right? So if one of the arguments that people are up against is that, this does not feel like it's going to integrate into our company seamlessly. We already have a set way of doing things. Is this going to be an obstacle rather than just a seamless add-on? So that's a consideration of the product itself, but also how you communicate how easy this product will be used, for example.
Man, I really love that. And yeah, that's also something I wanted to ask you about, which is like just your process when you work with companies, right? Because like what you said right now seems like very strategic, and obviously almost like the most important part of the process, right? Like shooting the video, editing the video is one thing, but like figuring out like what the hell this is going to be about is like so important. And yeah, I'm just curious, like if you'd like to share like your process when you work with clients, like what does that look like? How do you come in and Yeah, it could be fun to like run through that, like just so people know.
Yeah, sure, no worries. So typically, when we begin a process, we would schedule a what I call deep dive call. So around 30 minutes, basically, I will ask them to show me a demo of the product as they would show a customer, and then I would also just ask them about how that process has been working so far. Number one, as we mentioned, clarity. Like, does your customer understand what you do when you explain it to them the first time, or do you have to take a couple of times before they get it? So that's number one. And then I ask them questions about the market and how they're perceiving this type of new product, and then also, where does the sales cycle slow down? Where is it meeting resistance? Does this video have to please multiple stakeholders? Sure, the founders might love it, but when they pass this proposal down to, let's say, the CTO or the IT department, do they have pushback against it? Maybe there's some internal politics going on where this person doesn't want something like that because they're scared that the AI product's going to replace the department. So you also have to, so sometimes it's not so straightforward. You have to address fears, especially with AI products, about AI skepticism and the narrative that AI might replace a job. So can we frame it in a way where this is actually an AI co-pilot, where it's going to help accelerate, and in most of the cases, they're not actually replacing jobs, but helping the department do the job better, right? So I would go through these questions, and then from there, I would create a script that addresses these issues, and then after that, we do storyboarding, which is self-explanatory, is the visuals, and then we do animation.
Gotcha. No, that is awesome. Like, I think, yeah, like, is it challenging because I'm guessing the sales cycles are kind of long, right? Because there's like so many of these like strategic questions involved. And like you said, there's like internal disagreement in terms of creative vision. Especially when you're early, right? Like, once you have product market fit, once you know what the product is, the branding and the marketing, everything is set and the story is set. So that's like an easy gig. But like, I think, like, especially because you work at the very early stages, like, there's like so much uncertainty in terms of, like, even the founders don't know what the product is going to be. You know what I mean? Sometimes, like, they don't have a fully baked vision of like what we're going to do. And I feel like those engagements are the hardest. Like, yeah, but it's kind of cool that like you kind of plug in to the marketing side of things also, essentially this is like brand marketing, right? Like half the engagement is just figuring out the branding side of things.
Yeah, so if we're talking the actual branding, like the look and feel of the brand, like the logo, the colors, the fonts. So usually those are already set before the founders engage me, and visually and the look and feel, I would just adapt to that. But a lot of times, what I also help with the video is the messaging and the positioning, which may or may not already be in place, or they might be in place, but I see potentially a better way of telling their story.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's very cool. Yeah, shifting gears a little bit, like, obviously, like, I feel like no podcast is complete without talking about AI these days. So I wanted to ask you, like, just your thoughts on AI, like, because like I talked to some video editors and video producers, and obviously there's a mix of skepticism, fear, excitement, like something in the middle, all sorts of like reactions and opinions flying around. Yeah, I'm just curious, like, as like someone who's like truly like I guess like I mean I would say like an elite kind of video producer. Um, yeah, like how do you, like, what is your framework for thinking about AI? And you're building a business as well, so like this is also a selfish question because I'm thinking about it as someone who runs an agency as well. Like, yeah, like what's your framework for thinking about AI?
So you're talking about AI video generation in particular, right?
Yeah, it could be both, right? Like, it could be AI in like video generation, like the actual AI video tools, but it could also literally be your workflows as a producer.
Yeah, so right now, the area where AI helps me a lot with our day-to-day workflow is the script writing part of it. Not in terms of just using the not using the AI to write the whole script, but more as I think just like how most people use AI, more as
Like a
someone
thought
to bounce
partner.
ideas. Exactly,
Yeah.
bouncing ideas with. But ultimately, I'm the person who chooses, what the script will be and what's good. So even though it's a tremendous help and it's a time saver, um, I still need to be the person who's the judge of what a good idea looks like. So that's that's one side of it. And then in terms of the creative visual side of it, because of the because of where AI video generation is at now, it's not it's not really usable in terms of doing the type of work that we do, which requires a lot of preciseness and precise control as well, like a UX animation. AI video is just not able to do that right now. Where I have occasionally used it to be where I found it to be useful is using it actually to critique, let's say, a particular design or storyboard. Let's say there's a design where, I feel like there's just something a little bit off about the design of it, and I can't quite verbalize where it can be improved. I would basically upload the storyboard onto ChatGPT and then give it the context of what the storyboard is and ask how I can improve this image. And it's actually been quite reliable in terms of that. It will give you quite specific responses like, hey, the dynamic range is not enough here, or the compositionally wise it needs to like adjust slightly like this. So it's been quite useful in terms of that.
Man, yeah, that is such a good idea. Yeah, I think I'm also curious to get your take on like some of these like motion graphics tools. Like there's a bunch that went through IC also, I believe, and I'm just curious. Like I've used a few because I'm like I can't like do motion graphics for shit. But like yeah, I'm curious. Like, do you think like we'll get there at some point, or like what are your thoughts on like just like some basic motion graphics and like using AI for that, or even for I guess like yeah, for UX animations that seems like complicated to do because you're just not going to get pixel perfect stuff. But maybe for like the other animations that are there in the video, or like something visual, or something like more in the like fantasy realm, or like um yeah, I'm curious like if you have any tools you'd recommend or any workflows that you'd recommend.
Yeah, so as I say, because the AI tools right now are not that applicable for the type of work we do now. But I'm always so I haven't really used, or neither have my team have really used much of it. But I'm always keeping a lookout for it, just in case it gets to that. Then I'm totally open to experimenting with it or incorporating it into our workflow.
Sweet. All right. Final question, Alan. I always like to ask this to guests, which is like resources or books or podcasts or anything else that has really like inspired your approach today. And it could totally be architecture because I know that that also has been a huge part of your life. So yeah, anything that like informs your approach today would be great.
That's a great question. So the architecture, my architecture journey definitely contributed to what I do today. There was a lot of parallels in terms of design and also storytelling in what I do. So architecture really helped. And in architecture school, you're also encouraged to be very widely read. So you're not supposed to just read books about architecture. You're supposed to read about art history, film studies, psychology, sociology, and history as well. So when I make videos today, I also consider a lot of these cultural aspects and drawing from different sources to create my videos. You may notice that some of my videos sometimes start almost like a documentary, setting a historical context of why this product exists today. And by the way, that's also another strategy to relieve AI skepticism or the fear of adopting a product too early. One of the tricks that I use is to show people that, hey, like, innovation in history is a cyclical thing. The pattern is repeating itself. So, for example, one company I'm working with right now, they're doing AI for architecture, actually, and it's kind of like a full circle moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they tell me one of the issues that they're facing is that currently architecture only has 1.5% adoption in AI, and the construction industry is kind of notorious for adopting new technology slowly. But through research, and also experience, I know that yes, it's slow, but it does eventually get there. So for this project, I'm working with them right now. The intro is going to be talking about how back in the 1980s, people were still drawing these construction drawings by hand, and when they introduced CAD, which is the digital way of drawing, which is what everybody uses right now. People were skeptical of it back then. They were like, "Hey, no, I don't trust. We can't do this with a computer. Are you kidding me?" So it actually took them 10 years for the whole industry to completely adopt AutoCAD, which is really crazy if you think about it. And the narrative I'm drawing is that, hey, this has happened before. The companies who were able to adopt the new technology, they took advantage of it, and they were able to profit from it and win competitions and jobs from it earlier, and also made them more efficient. So, we're now at the beginning of the AI era of construction and architecture. So you need to be taking advantage of that now. So this is where drawing from different sources helps. So that's number one. And also, I'll be remiss if I didn't mention my favorite TV show, Mad Men. So
Absolutely.
last year, me and my wife watched the fourth. It was her first time watching it. It's my fourth time watching it, and I'm still because each time I forget details. I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. I love the that kind of old school copywriting era. I have books on my bookshelf about copywriting, like David Ogilvy, Confessions of an Advertising Man, and just I love that era of old school copywriting, and many of the stuff that they talk about in those books is still applicable today because human psychology is human psychology.
Totally. Man, Alan, this was amazing. Thank you so much for your time. This has been great.
Thank you so much, Yash. Thanks for having me.